Alright, so here's the deal with the internals. You got the cocking piece, the LEM hammer, and then the axle. I've got two of them here. This is actually the LEM axle, and then this was the original one that I had that allows you to use the control lever. And then you've got the LEM hammer rebound spring. So this has to fit in obviously a certain way. So you'll see that there's a flat portion here, and then there's a little notch here. This little notch has to go along the left side of the hammer, and you'll see inside the hammer this flat piece. The flat piece of the hammer is going to align with the flat piece of the LEM cocking piece, like such. In addition to that, we're going to have the spring lay along the side of it, and the legs are going to point towards the right. So you're going to want one leg up against the hammer like that. There's actually a little notch there. You can see where the spring will catch in place. And then we don't have to worry so much about the other leg because we're going to grab that later on and pull it up behind the sear. So the best way to keep this together so that you can stick the axle through is, see, we're going to have to hold it in place like this, and then either one of the axles goes through, whichever one you want to use. So the best way to do that is to put grease down in this flat part here of the hammer, and then slide the cocking piece into there. This grease actually sucks. It's the only grease I have, but it's not as sticky as I would like. It's kind of the consistency of like Neosporin, so it kind of just smears instead of sticks. And like I said, make sure that you have this little notch lined up, and then just push it together. And if we're lucky, that will hold like such in place. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the spring here. Going to put a little on this side. Actually, I'm just going to kind of dab it around the edge here. And then hopefully the spring will stick to it. And then we can align it in the frame. And just like that. That's exactly what we want right there. So now we're going to set up the frame here, and I'm going to show you how to insert this. Okay, so when we go to install this guy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the hammer strut down in there. I'm not worried about the position of it just yet. Now when we put the axle in from the side, we're going to have to push down on the trigger bar so that it's able to clear and go all the way through the frame. We are also, as we do this, going to need to line up the hammer LEM cocking piece and hammer rebound spring. So we have to be very careful not to disturb the position of these parts. Now what I found is it's easiest to keep all this stuff as far to the right as possible because you don't want to knock this spring against this side of the frame. So I'm going to try and do this. If we do it very carefully, can usually get it in on the first try. I think it grabbed that spring a little bit. There we go. Okay, so before I start doing anything with the other internals, I've got the hammer strut down in here. Remember, I dropped it down in there. So what I'm going to do with my finger is kind of just work it in place, and you'll see it come up right underneath the hammer there. That's what you want. So once you've got it in place there, I'm going to go ahead and reattach the hammer spring and the lockout device. And then I'm going to insert the make sure that all that lines up correctly. Okay, here we go. Because, yeah, you'll see it right there. Because if this strut is along either side, it's going to get messed up and we're going to have to take all these internals out and start over. So now we're going to move on with putting the rest of the internals